Hello and welcome to Fan the Flames podcast. This is a space where I have conversations, interviews, and chats with coaches, therapists, practitioners about how they work with others. What is it that they do? And this idea of how do they fan the flames of those that they work with? I have this belief that we all have a spark, a flame inside of us, and we work with practitioners and others to fan that flame, to reach our full potential, to realize our dreams, our life wishes, and all of that wonderful stuff. And today I'm joined by none other than Marcus Stone. Marcus, welcome.
Well, hello. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Rob.
Great to see you. And I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to Marcus, but I'm always aware that when we introduce people, we kind of put them in boxes. So I'm going to put you in some boxes, and then we're going to break out of
I'm going to try
those boxes.
See if I'm strong enough.
So Marcus is a coach. He's a coach trainer. He's a supervisor and mentor. He's a facilitator. I would also say that he's an author, a writer, and an all-round good person, I suppose, would be how I would describe you, Marcus. But for those listening and watching, how might you go about describing yourself?
Oh, that is a difficult question. And first of all, before we get in, I just want to notice that it looks like you're in the tropics there. So I know it's 6 degrees here and I'm freezing, and you're wearing a short sleeve shirt. What's going on?
Well, I've got my lamp on. I think you can see a reflection of it, and it blows out so much heat that I get really hot. So I tend just to rock in a t-shirt. But I do realize that at some point I'm going to be regretting this choice, possibly regretting this choice.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
And the sun is shining outside, so there is this illusion that we're in this kind of tropical space. I've got my plant in the background here as well with me.
Exactly. I thought you were in a different country for a while. But, So how would I describe myself? That's I mean, all of the things that you said there are true. That is my life. I am completely freelance now. I've had various spells of employment and directorships over my time. I was a chartered surveyor for I'm still a chartered surveyor, but I was a practicing chartered surveyor for many years in a professional real estate and property environments. Came out of that in 2013, 2014, was trained by none other than Robert Stevenson at Animas on this journey to where I am now, and who knows where it goes next. I think that's part of the exciting thing. But qualifying as a coach, not really knowing what that meant for me or what I was going to do, but finding something that I really connected with. I mean, this fan the flame thing is really interesting in that regard for me, because I completely resonate with that. I think we've all got a little flame inside us. And I was thinking the other day about, for me, it felt like the boiler that I've got downstairs, the gas boiler with the pilot light. And that pilot light was always there. And I knew it was there, but it was suppressed, and it was like it was hidden away, and it was just flickering gently. And it took me so long to admit to myself that things weren't good enough and that I wanted to change things, that when my flame ignited, it went like that. It's like when your boiler just comes into life. And that's what it was like for me. And it's interesting. And my life now is very different. And when I think about other people, I think it's not always that way for other people. I think some people are not aware perhaps that there's a flame flickering, and it needs very careful nurturing. And that fanning the flame, that maybe that gentle breath breathing into the soul of somebody to expand that flame is something that I love about the work that I do. And I'm able now to do that in various different environments. So yes, I'm a coach, and I work one-to-one with individuals as a personal coach. I haven't ventured back into the corporate world in that environment. I've done some group coaching. Obviously, I'm a trainer and a facilitator, and I train new coaches, and that's fantastic work and great for my own practice as well. Yes, I'm a qualified coach supervisor. and I do mentoring as well for newer coaches and also for coaches looking to go into the ICF and get credentialed in the professional environment. But what does that, who am I? It's like, in essence, I am just one person. So I've got all of those labels.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm just this one person who works with people in whatever way feels like the most appropriate way at that moment. And sometimes there are boundaries around that work. For example, when I'm training, there'll be a specific reason, or when I'm mentor coaching people for the ICF, there are going to be specific reasons. But often it's like, I don't know what the boundaries around this work are going to be. So let's sit down together. Let's find out what it is that you're hoping to get. Let me see in you what I might see in you and share some of that with you. Because I think, I think that's what I'm probably too slowly discovering in my work, is this ability to just be with somebody and to notice and be brave enough to share some stuff that I'm seeing in them, and trying not to hold that back and using that spontaneity, that intuition, that humanness to work with people, just hopefully to allow them. It's like almost a permission process. I find when I work with a lot of people, that they're able to start to realize what isn't good enough for them anymore, what it is that they would like to see, and to get brave enough to admit that to themselves, and then start to explore what that means in their lives and what they might do with that.
I think that there is so much in what you said there that I just want to kind of reflect on and bounce around with, because there's the idea of the fuel to that flame. And you say about your gas boiler, and when you kind of turn it on, and that you let the fuel in, and then poof, and it ignites. And there's something really interesting about how do we create environments that enable that fuel to process, to reach each other. Because I think there's something about, we can be in jobs that cut off that fuel to that flame. So we can't ignite that flame. We can't begin that journey because we've got no fuel to light that flame or to ignite it. I loved what you said about, breathing into the soul of others, and that idea that's part of the fuel. I think that in those conversations, in that almost that exchange of breath, that we are breathing something, we're exchanging something, and in that exchange, people begin to notice what it is that they want to do, because it can be so unknown, it can be so hidden, and suppressed as well. I think we can hide away from what we really want to do for fears of all sorts of things that are societal perhaps, or cultural, that don't quite allow us to give ourselves that permission to go, right, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And then we work with somebody like yourself who's just kind of so present with them, that allows them that permission to go, yeah, do you know what, I do want to do this. And perhaps it's a gentle doing, or it's an explosion of doing.
Yeah, and it's interesting working with different people, and that change, that process happening in completely different ways, where some people who are ready for change, they come and sit in front of you and they're ready. They just need maybe the spark to ignite something, and they're ready. They just need something to help them. And then at the other end of the spectrum, possibly if there is a spectrum, somebody who at least recognizes that there may be something that they want to change, but has no idea what that is, and doesn't feel enabled or empowered in any way. And it can be much more delicate work.
So I just noticed that, Marcus, my connection, or our connection, did a thing.
Yeah, you froze on my screen, and I wondered if that was because it was so cold where you were that you frozen.
So I'm just gonna pick up a point there that I noticed as you were talking there about people being ready or not ready. This image came to mind for me of that sometimes people arrive to us to begin that work, and they bring the campfire with them, and our job is to work with them to light that campfire. And then there are other times that people come to us, and our job with them is to find the campfire, to find the wood and the kindling, and to build the fire before we light the fire. And that kind of spectrum or kind of process, and kind of exploring, where are we in this process of we built the campfire and we're ready to do something with it, or have we, are we not sure what's really going on for us, and therefore we need to go out into the woods and collect things to bring back, to then go, right, so what am I going to do with this now?
Yeah, that's a really great image, isn't it? And it makes me think, the other way that you could create an explosion is just to pour petrol on the fire. But that's, just coming in with a bucket of petrol and chucking it on the fire and saying, right, my work is done, is probably not always going to be the best way of doing things. So often this work is gentle and delicate and exploratory, and can take time to kindle that flame. And I think that's a really interesting metaphor, isn't it? It's like, is there anything in place already, or where are we starting here? Because a lot of people come in not really knowing what they want.
Yeah.
I think, we talk as coaches, don't we, about outcomes and getting really clear about the outcome of the work that we're going to be doing. And the ICF are very keen on outcomes and measurability, and how will you know that you've achieved this outcome by the end of the session and the work that you do. But I think the outcome for some of my clients is to discover why they're here in the first place. What I'm here, why am I here? And that is enough of an outcome initially. And sometimes it's enough to start to create that shift and that change. And once that momentum begins, then the other amazing thing about the work that we do is what happens outside of the session, and the change that you can notice as a coach, because you're not living with them every second of the day. And so you see them a week or 2 weeks later, and you can clearly start to notice when that change starts to happen. It's there, you can see it, and you can, you can share that with your clients, and that can have an amazingly empowering impact on them as well.
Because as you were saying that, I really think about this idea of discovering our outcomes. And often what brings us to, let's say, a coaching session isn't the thing itself. It's just an indication of the thing that we have yet to find. And that's a great starting point. But as we start to sort of uncover and allow things to emerge, we begin to realize that, the reason I came for coaching, or the initial reason, wasn't the reason. That was just a symptom of something. And now that I'm kind of digging into it and exploring it, I see that there are these other things, or these bigger things that I hadn't noticed before, that are there. And by shifting and exploring those, then I can create that change that ripples through. And that thing of, when we start to create that change and we start to create those shifts, it builds momentum. So it happens outside the session as well. So whether we're seeing them weekly or fortnightly or even monthly, when they come back, it's like, wow, look at that momentum that's kind of charging through them.
Yeah. And for me, at the time of my change, that energy, it reminds me of Wayne Dyer talks about peak experience, peak moments, that you remember these moments of excitement when everything is enhanced. It's like what you're seeing, the colors, the sound, the noises, and the energy within you and around you is enhanced. These peak experiences which mean something. And I can remember several of those. And at that point in time, I was just so overexcited about everything and filled with this energy that it felt like had been stored up for so long. But yes, it's momentum. But how do our clients and the people we work with maintain that momentum? And I think there's something there as well. It's like we might encourage and kindle that flame, but they have to take that flame with them, don't they?
Yeah.
And we're not there to help them to keep that flame alive. And what happens when they're back outside in their lives, subject to all of the conditions and the experiences that their normal lives bring to them? Is that flame strong enough? Is there enough momentum to allow them to carry the flame with them?
Yeah, and I think that that part of what we do is to partner with somebody to recognize that and to understand that and to create tools or systems or processes or reminders about how do we keep our flames, but also how do we guard our flames. I think there's something, when I think about those candles that have the kind of the cup guarding the flame, I think there's something about that too, because when we have these ideas and these dreams and these things that we want to go out and do or change, whether that's in the world or within ourselves, sometimes it isn't right or appropriate yet to share that with the world, to kind of expose that to the world. And we have to kind of find when's our time to let that out into the world. And so there is that kind of guarding of the flame as well, and protecting of the flame.
Yeah, that is something really interesting to notice, isn't it? And my own personal experience of that is that when you're not ready, that you can be heard by the opinions of others around you, and the sort of normal societal values that you're part of when you're not ready. And I think for me, the point was, and is for many people, is that I don't think I was ready to accept myself at that point. That was the thing. It's like there was this change going on. It felt right. I was really excited about it, but there was something in me that was uncertain about it, not confident about any of that. And so as soon as I was challenged and that flame started to flicker, then I'd get very defensive about that with the people around me, which wasn't helpful. So I think, there's like, how do we there's something about nurturing then, isn't there? It's like, how do we nurture this flame and keep it with us so that it's able to grow strong enough? Because at some point, for me, it's allowing that flame to shine. It's like, I don't want to keep this flame to myself. It's like, what's the point of that? I want to be able to shine this out and allow this flame to be seen by other people.
And there's something, as you're saying that, we're kind of playing with these flame and fire metaphors. There's something about when we're building a campfire, and at the beginnings, the early stages, we're so protective of it because we know that the wind may blow it out. But then there's a point where it gets to a stage where actually the wind helps it to grow. And it's like how we go through these stages and these processes of kind of going, well, here's my idea, but I'm just going to look after it and going to feed it, and I'm going to feed it, I'm going to feed it until it gets to a stage where I can then share it and allow the voices of others to kind of put more kind of fuel to it because it's strong enough not to be blown out.
Yeah, but then I wonder, is that ever actually true?
Ooh.
Or is it just us that allows that to become a possibility? Because it's like, looking back now, that flame can't be extinguished. And it's a change in me that's allowed that. Now, or is it a change in the flame that it's become stronger such that it can't be pushed off? I mean, I love this idea of this shift where the wind could blow it out. But what if you knew then that the wind and everything that happened to you was actually enabling you to become stronger and to build this up? It's like a psychological shift to think, oh, I need to protect this from the wind. Well, actually, the wind could help this. What can I learn from this? And I think that was the thing that I didn't take right at the beginning. I took people's opinions as criticisms. Sometimes they were, and it hurt me, rather than being able to go, okay, well, that's interesting. What does that mean? Does that mean anything for me or not? Am I worried about the opinions of others? Well, yes, I am still, unfortunately. I wish I wasn't. But I'm less worried about the opinions of others now than I used to be. And now I feel like I'm rambling. But I love that idea that what we fear is going to be damaging to us could actually be the thing that strengthens us.
I as you were saying there, it's almost a perspective that we need to take, a paradigm that we need to shift ourselves into. That in those early days, we can feel that what others say is going to hurt and challenge and extinguish. But if we shift our focus and go, but what can I learn from that? What can I understand from that? And also, I think there's something there about what can I understand about those that are speaking as well, because what they're saying may have nothing to do with my idea.
Right.
It may be completely about their response to me having ideas as a reflection of what they have or haven't done with their own ideas. So there's that. And, and one of the things I wrote down here is that, ultimately we are the flame. And so we are always here and we're always a light. And it's about perhaps that belief in ourselves that allows that flame to grow, or the acceptance. And the more we believe, the more we accept, the brighter we become.
It's already there. It's already there. Because when you were speaking there, the word duty came into mind. And like, is it our duty to build this flame up and share it with other people? But I don't think duty is the right word, because then it becomes a pressure. And like, how do I do this? Actually, for me these days, it's more about it's already here. So it's just like allow your true essence to come through, because I fundamentally believe that we are loving human beings in true essence, but lots of stuff gets in the way that smothers our ability to do that. And you talking there about other people's fears being projected onto us, and then if we're not able to notice that in the moment, it can have a really deleterious impact on us. But we allow that to happen. We allow that to happen to us.
And I'm reading a book at the moment by a gentleman called Johann van Bavel, and he talks about in it, what's the responsibility that we are taking, and what's the choices that we are making in that moment. And I think there's a lot of talk about moment by moment choices. I was listening to Dan Smallridge the other day, and he was talking about our lives is made up by moments and events that we string together and call time. But it's all these moments that happen, and how do we exist in those moments? How do we bring our fullness and our richness to those moments? And how do we recognize that it's all happening, it's all there, and it's a lot of the distress that we might experience is our reaction or thinking around those moments that cause us to shrink or to hide or to go small or to believe others. I mean, believing others can be really useful. If somebody's giving you some useful,
if they're being nice about you.
Well, being nice, but also giving you, because there's also intention in this as well. What's the intention of the speaker to us when they're giving us those feedbacks or that thought or giving us their opinion? Is their intention to enable us to grow, or is their intention something else? And I think this, for coaches and the like, the intention is always to support and to grow and to discover and to understand. And because of that, there is this constant building that takes place, whereas others may not have that intention.
No, that's true. But it's interesting then to think about, isn't it? But that intention, and if that's a felt sense that there's a less than positive intention, that can impact you. But unless somebody is physically hurting you or threatening you or keeping you locked up somewhere, why? And yet we're fragile as human beings, aren't we? And we're full of our own insecurities, and in each moment we can allow that to come through this. It's like guarding that flame. It's a really delicate balance, isn't it? It's like, do I put like a steel protection around myself so that nothing can get in? But then, what's my experience of life then? Or do I open myself up completely and allow people to see who I am and live that life? But then what if something gets in, and I allow that to damage me.
And you know, it goes back, it doesn't go back to, but building on that, what you were saying about, you know, the choice of, do I take this as information and grow from this, or do I take it as a hit and allow it to push me down? And even if it does put me down, what can I learn from that to continue to grow? I think it's Brené Brown who talks about that we can't just shield ourselves from the bad stuff. When we shield ourselves, we shield ourselves from everything, so the good stuff can't get in as well. So there's something about, as I say that, I kind of go, there's something about what is it that we're holding on to, and treasuring, and how can we treasure that allows us to grow, and how can we let go of that diminishes us or challenges us in an unuseful and an unhelpful way.
Yeah, I just had an image then of like art collectors, and I mean, I'm not an art collector, so I can't put myself in their shoes, but it always seems like a strange thing to me that a beautiful piece of art, a painting or something like that, would be bought and locked away as an investment in somebody's cellar, out of light, protected so that it doesn't deteriorate, and it's never seen. And to me, that's like, but this is a beautiful piece of art that could be shared with the world and bring people joy and experience. And it's like, I don't understand that. And it felt, I don't know, it just felt like there was something there. If we think about that for ourselves, you know, what are we doing?
Because we are those beautiful pieces of art that go out into the world and have an opportunity to shine. And I recognize, as I say that sometimes we don't feel that. We don't feel that we have that opportunity.
No.
You know, it can feel that life isn't giving us that, is pushing us down, or sidelining us for whatever reason, or that those opportunities aren't available to us. And I recognize that it can really feel like that.
Yeah, it can. And I think that, you know, there's part of the work that we can do with other people is we believe in them. We know. I mean, I know that change is possible because it's happened for me. And I can believe in everybody that I work with because I know it's possible for them. And I know that, you know, they are this person, you know, all that Carl Rogers stuff, that everything they need is already within them. And, you know, that, I think that belief, if you're sitting with somebody who, doesn't matter what you say, they know and believe in you, that is an amazingly supportive and catalytic space to be in, I think. When you think that, you know, some people don't have that anywhere in their lives at all. And I think, you know, and a part of that is a way of being with somebody. You know, talking about processes and things like that. It's like, for me, I don't know I have no idea what my processes are. But I know that I can sit down with somebody and I can be with them, or walk with them, or do whatever it is that we're doing, and something between us will be created that will be helpful for them. And I think there's also that belief that's come for me is, I don't think I can analyze this the way that some people can analyze the work that they do. Maybe one day I might be able to do that, or I might get, you know, Anishi Patel, who can model me through NLP or something like that, you know, one day. But at the moment, just the confidence to know that I can give my time and spend my time with somebody, and it's going to be helpful in some way for them, in a way that perhaps neither of us understand yet. That also is really helpful to the work. Rather than perhaps, you know, how I was when I first started out, which was just questioning everything about, you know, who would spend time with me, who would pay me, who would want to work with me. It's like, okay, well, I know that's true. And it's the same in the training environment. I know I will turn up and I will be with a group of people and something will happen.
You know, as you're saying that, I'm sort of smiling to myself because I feel that is your process to be with. It's like, because sometimes, as you say, you know, we can unpick processes and we can try and understand them in their detail, and we can do all of that work, and sometimes it breaks the beauty of something when we break it down like that. And it can be more useful to have a higher sort of view of it. And for me, when I think about the work that you do, it is about being with somebody. It's about you say, my time I'm spending with you, and I'm going to be with you, and we're going to experience something. And that confidence that you bring, saying, you know, I know something useful is going to happen here. I don't know what it is. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen. Allows the person that you're with to go, oh, okay, I don't need to worry about that thing happening. It's just going to happen. And I think that is also born out of experience as coaches. Over time, we go, actually, magic happens here, or magic, process, outcome, whatever language you want to use, happens when we sit and fully commit to doing this, and we let go of trying to be in a box of a process, or doing the right thing. We need to learn all those processes and those steps, but it's like that kind of, you learn it to unlearn it, which can feel really strange. Why learn it if we need to unlearn it? But it's like, it gives us this kind of framework that allows us to hold everything and let go of everything at the same time.
And there is an allowing. Are we able to allow that? I like to think it's magic. Are we able to allow that magic to come into the space? And between us, are we together to allow that to happen? Because it will. Something will emerge if everything that we've created here is working, and we're working together and we're getting on together. It's like something's going to happen. That's as far as I've got, really. But it's always been that for me, Rob. Right back when I was, wasting my life in the surveying world. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? I hope no surveyors watch this. It was about time. It was like, how can I give my time? It's like, and where do I give my time? And these are the bits of the work that I enjoy, is talking with people, meeting people, creating teams, and enabling things to happen. It's like, it was pretty obvious. The actual work itself, like, it just doesn't inspire me at all. But it's always been about that for me.
And one of the things that, because you were saying wasting your time, and I was talking the other day with someone, and I said, I don't think we ever waste time. No. I think there's always something happening. Well, maybe we do waste time. Maybe that's too profound a thing to say. We never waste time. Maybe we do.
I'm just off to watch Netflix, by the
way. But I also think that sometimes we can feel that we have wasted time, but actually there has been a building and a nurturing taking place that we weren't aware of in that moment. That we can look back.
I think there's an end to that. So it's like, one of the motivations for me was that realization of the deathbed regret. And then, to get to that stage of your life when it's too late, and to have a regret, a fundamental regret around something, would be pretty painful, I think. And so, but generally speaking, I think I agree with you. It's like, I can't go back and change anything. And would I, even if I could? What would that mean? If I went back to when I made a decision about a decision, it's like when I just sort of fell into surveying because I couldn't think of anything else to do. If I'd had a different thought and maybe gone into something in the coaching or the psychological fields, I would never have met my wife, because I met her on the first day that I went to Leicester Poly to do my land management course. So what would that mean? Well, I'd never have met her. I would not have had William and James, my children. I would have done something else. It would have been a sliding door moment, and my life would be completely different. But from where I am now, would I want to go back and change that? Well, no. And so what has actually happened? Of course, if you analyze it, there's lots of things that have happened along the way that you would never want to change. The friends that I've got, where I live, the things that I'm blessed with, the life that I've led, and the people I've met along the way. And yet still, I've now got this this new way of living, and I value it all the more because of the experiences that I had in my previous career. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
look at this. This is now, I am now working as a freelancer. I don't always, but I largely get to choose what I'm choosing to be with you here today, Rob. I mean, what better thing could I possibly be doing right now than speaking to you on this podcast? And how blessed do I feel about that? Because this is the first of your new podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
lucky am I? You know, these blessings that I have in my life are all the greater because of the experiences I think I've had in the past. And so there's an interesting contrast that, you know, it's like short and tall. It's like, what does that mean? Well, unless you have tall, you don't know what short is.
Yeah. And there's also something about the gratitude there. You know, as you were talking, it's like there was a gratitude for these experiences and these things that have happened in these opportunities. And I think that also when we're working, we enable gratitude to exist. You know, what is it we're grateful for? What are we happy about? Even when it was challenging, what did it bring us that's now allowing us to be more joyful or more happy in our world, in our lives?
But absolutely, and there were a few fundamental things. I think if I do look back and look at my journey, my sort of recent journey, gratitude was one of those things that you know, we talk about it a lot these days, don't we? And I'm sure there's people watching this who are like, oh God, they're on banging on about gratitude again. But there was something for me. I did used to be a glass half empty person. I always used to look at things through a certain lens. Whereas now I genuinely think I'm a glass half full person. I look at things and I tend to see the positive in it without, and it was a process I went through by just keeping a list of things that I was grateful for each day. And I started looking for those things each day. It's like, it had this profound effect. That was one thing. Saying thank you to people was another. Like, somebody gives you a compliment. I was always, oh, don't be so stupid. No, don't be silly. No, just say thank you. Accept it. If people pay you a compliment, it's because they mean it. Just accept it. They'll feel good about it. They'll give you more compliments, and off you go. And the other thing I did in my early days, which was part of the gratitude thing, was just being generous. Be generous with your time. Don't, you know, not to the extent that you start to feel resentful and bitter. That is counterproductive. But in the early days, because I loved it, I was generous with my time. I was generous with my school animus that I trained with. I was generous with the people. I was generous with my time. And at the time, it felt like I was just having a lot of fun. And this is great. And Sylvia thought, what the hell is he doing? Going up to London every day, messing around. But actually looking back, the opportunities that arose as a result of the conversations I had and the time I spent with people has been foundational in leading me to where I am now. Yeah, I don't know what any of that means, but those are just some things that maybe I do look back on my journey and think those were important to me. So
yeah, I think, you know, I think we've covered so much ground here in our kind of conversation, and I'm really thankful for you to, you know, joining me on my first of the new podcasts. And as you were talking there, I was just kind of thinking, you know, we talk about gratitude, we talk about presence, we talked about permission and acceptance, we talked about generosity, and we talked about this idea that we are the flame already. We are it already. And it's just about how do we allow ourselves to go out there and be it and accept what's happening around it and living in those moments. So, you know, for people that have listened to this and our ramblings and our
you're wondering what the hell are they talking about?
You know, I'd be really interested, you know, in what are people taking away from this? So if you're listening or watching, it'd be great for you to share a comment, a thought. You know, what are you taking away from this? How is this supporting or helping you? And likewise, Marcus, if people want to get hold of you, work with you or follow you, where can they do that?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? I'm sort of in various. So I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. My email address is relatively email's easy to get into. So I'm marcus@marcusstone.com. And so if ever anybody wants a chat, I'm happy. I'm generous with my time. So I love conversations and things. So if anybody would like a chat about anything, then feel free to contact me.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marcus, for being generous with your time and spending that time
No, not at all
today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, well, I've absolutely loved it. As I say, there's nowhere else I would have been this morning. So thank you for that.
Cheers. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks, Rob.